Sunday school leaders, we are in the month of December. Christmas is a-coming. We are in the second week of the unit entitled Spoken, the Rhythm of God's Word. Our second week's title is called God's Word Fills My Heart. We're looking at Psalm 119, verses 9 through 16. And the point of the lesson is that God's Word teaches us all we need to live well. As I read through just these 8 verses, it reminds me that even just this little section of Psalm 119 can be a good instruction guide for us on how to raise our kids or to help raise our grandkids. Too many times kids will bring their teenagers to the office to talk to the youth pastor or to the pastor, and they want their kids to be fixed. They've gone too far, they've gotten expelled, they're in trouble with drugs, all these different situations. But as a parent, they've not really done their part in helping raise them spiritually. It's almost like the church is a last resort, and they want their kids to be fixed. Now, I'm not going to underestimate here the power of the gospel. It certainly can change lives, but it's God's plan that parents are to train up the children, and that the church comes along and supplements that. So as I read this and I look at verse 9, I'm going to rephrase that a tad. Is how can we keep our kids from going astray? Well, we ground them in God's Word. Old Testament is full of scriptures about raising your child in the way he should go, and when he's older he won't depart from it. And teach your children when they get up in the morning, when they go down at night. And it's the parents' responsibility to train them in God's Word. But unfortunately, especially in our culture, that is probably not the case in the majority of even church people. They're relying on the church to do that. But what do we get? We might get an hour on Sunday, maybe 2, maybe that hour on Wednesday, so 2 or 3 hours, maybe a week, they're at church. And the rest of the time they're at home or with friends. And so while the church's influence can be strong, it's really the parent's job to teach. Anyway, that's how we can help our kids, is ground them in God's Word. Now in verse 11, we may have memorized that in the King James Version, where it says, I've hidden your word in my heart that I might not sin against thee. NIV comes along, and that word hidden is better translated treasured. I've treasured your word in my heart that I won't sin against you. And that treasured, it's like a protected. And so you can see, even through King James, what that means. That means how you would dig up and bury a treasure and protect it. So we treasure, we hide it, we protect God's Word in our heart. And why do we do that? So we'll know what's sin and what's not. We'll know not to sin against Him. Now, to treasure God's Word, you've got to know it. And to know it, you've got to be in it. So try to get that across to your class. I don't want to bet, but I would almost guarantee that most people in our Sunday school classes aren't in the Bible daily. Hopefully I'm wrong on that, but that's probably a pretty good guess. Now in the United States especially, there is no excuse for that. The Bible is so available. It's free. All the versions are free. If you go if you've got a smartphone, you go to the App Store and you look for the Bible app, it's YouVersion. I've got that spelled out underneath me here. The YouVersion app. It has just about every Bible version you want. It has audio, it has Bible reading plans, it has devotional guides. There's just so much, it's there, and it's free. We have no excuse not to be in God's Word. In fact, as you look over my shoulder here, you can see the various scriptures, the Bibles that I have, and I'm sure that many people have various copies of God's Word in their homes and their office as well. Now, so I'm putting this video together on Friday night, which is later than normal, and I don't know what happened to my video that I recorded in my office. So anyway, I'm going to finish up a little bit of what I was trying to say. So as we look down in verse 13, we know, or we can see that knowing God's Word is not enough. We have to obey it. We talked about that last week. But that's not even enough too. As we look in verse 13, it says, with my lips I proclaim all the judgments from your mouth. So we've got to know His Word, we've got to obey His Word. But it also says something about speaking God's Word, speaking the truth in people's lives. Not letting people just wallow around in sin and ignorance, but but speaking the truth from God's Word. So, a question you might want to leave your class with, maybe a discussion question, would be down in verse 15. It says, I will meditate on your precepts and think about your ways. What are some ways that people can meditate on God's Word? And maybe ask them what it is that they do. We talked earlier about the YouVersion app that has the audio feature that actually reads it, so you can listen to that as you drive, as you run or jog or walk, or in my case, mosey. So we can listen to it. We can listen to it on Sunday, of course. We can, of course, read it as well. But to me, meditation is more than just reading. It's reading it and reading it again and again and again in different versions, and maybe even staying in one chapter for a whole month. So, anyway, you might want to get some different ideas on how people can meditate on God's Word. All right, that's all I have for this week.